So can we go ahead and invite our guests to the stage? Are you all excited, guys? Let's call out Ananya, joining us live right now, a 328 scorer. Ananya, are you able to hear us?
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi, Ananya. A very, very warm welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a huge pleasure having you here. How are you feeling now?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah, I'm pretty good. What about you?
Pretty good, Ananya. In fact, I think we've been waiting for this summer for a long time. I spoke to a lot of students who joined here today, very eager to understand you more. So before I talk about you, can you please introduce yourself to the audience? Where do you come from? What is your background? Can you take us through that?
Yeah, sure. So, hello everyone. I am Ananya. I am currently working in a consultancy firm, and I've been working here since the past 1 year. And before that, I did my BTech from Indian Institute of Engineering, Science and Technology, Shibpur. It's in West Bengal. And I did my BTech in Computer Science and Technology. So today I'm here to discuss about my GRE journey and my experience with GREedge so far.
All right. So thank you so much for that, Ananya. In fact, I think given your working schedule and preparing for GRE might not have been that easy. We understand that. So can you give us, we know that you've scored a 328. Can you take our audience through the breakdown in terms of quant, verbal, and your AWA score right now?
Yeah, so I took GRE last month and I scored 328. I scored 168 in quant and 160 in verbal, and my AWA score was 5.
AWA score of 5. Wow, that's a very, very rare thing I see. In fact, I think in the past, a lot of guest seminars, believe me, 5 is something I don't see that easy. Goes to show what kind of, in fact, a lot of wow, amazing messages coming from Vishal, Sudhakar from the audience. That's actually fantastic, Ananya. Now, a 168 and a 116 verbal, getting a 116 verbal kind of is very important if you're looking for the top universities in terms of cutoff and etc. But before we move on to that part and understand that, I have a lot of congratulations message from Shubham, Abhishek to you for your score.
Thank you, guys.
What was your primary motivation for a master's? When did you first think about masters? When did you first decide that I should probably go abroad? And why did you decide US as your ideal country?
Yeah, so it was like ever since my college days, I was really interested in big data and database management system. So I also did some undergrad projects and internships relevant to the same. And also for the past 1 year, I have been working in this consultancy firm where I handle master data management system on a day-to-day basis. So I really had interest in data science and big data since a long time. And I already have my elder brother from my family who has gone to USA, and he is also pursuing MS PhD from there. So it's like I came to know about the studying opportunities in USA, and I also Googled up, and I came across pretty decent universities and with excellent research opportunities, and I also want to sort of pursue the same. So I felt like MS in USA was a pretty good opportunity for me, and that's what has kept me motivated for it.
All right, a very clear idea on how you're going for. That's actually fantastic. Now that you kind of told me you are looking for masters in this particular field, can you give us an outline of what kind of universities you will be targeting given your score?
Yeah, so it's like we have to select some universities on the day of the GRE. So I have picked out UC Davis, UC San Diego, and Texas Austin, and also Maryland College Park. Apart from this, I'm also thinking about applying to Carnegie Mellon for that matter, and maybe Texas A&M as well.
Okay, so how do you come across these universities as your primary target? Is there any reasoning behind targeting these particular universities?
Yeah, so sort of you have to match your profile, your profile and your GRE score with the universities that you sort of can get into, and you can divide your total list of universities. If you're applying for 4, you can keep 2 universities which are moderately safe, and one which is sort of ambitious, and one which is pretty easy for you to get into. Also, I like looked up. Went into the different websites of the universities. I looked up the lecturers there, what was the teaching, what was their profile, and what were their area of research, and if it matched any of my interest, and that's how I like shortlisted all this.
Okay, I think that kind of makes a very clear decision-making process involved in this. A little bit background in terms of, can you take us through your work experience? What kind of work experience do you have, and how do you plan to use it when you apply to universities like this?
Yeah, so as I said, I have been working for the past 1 year at a consultancy firm. So on a day-to-day basis, I basically work with a master data management system. So it is like handling big amount of data every day, and it's basically I work on a product master where we receive different tons and tons of data, and we like maintain them, we clean the data, we pre-process them. So I actually was always interested in big data, but this sort of hands-on experience and real life experience I never had in my college days, which I gathered since my last 1 year of experience. So I'm hopeful that I would be able to apply this real world experience to my field of study in future, and come up with better solutions.
All right, wonderful, wonderful, Ananya. I think that kind of is very clear. Now, moving forward to next part of this webinar. Now, I think you have a very clear, you're targeting the fall 2019, and you've already given your GRE. A lot of people do not plan their timeline, and a lot of things still, if you look at Quora, so many questions asking like, when should I take my GRE for fall 2019? Is that the right timeline? All of this is very important. So what kind of timeline did you follow, or are you planning to take forward from here on to ensure you make it to deadlines? What can timeline? What are the next steps involved for you?
Yeah, so I basically had this decided that I was gonna attempt for fall 2019 session. So if I take it from the other way around, so the fall 2019, for applying to fall 2019, most of the deadline closes around November to December 2018, right? And so I thought that to apply to have a decent application procedure and to make it a smooth application procedure, I must be finished with my SOPs and LORs by October, or preferably by the end of September. So that means I should have all the universities shortlisted and my SOPs and everything by the end of October, and which means I should give my GRE and TOEFL by the end of August, or preferably by the mid of August, because that leaves me up with a 1 or 2 months window to come up with my SOP and LORs. So with that thought in mind, I have already written my GRE, and I am planning to write my TOEFL sometime soon. So, and I think that's a pretty decent timeline to follow if you want to make your application procedure smooth and you don't want to rush through any of the steps.
All right, all right. That actually kind of makes a lot of sense, because there are a lot of process involved after your GRE in terms of drafting an SOP, like you said. University selection itself, like, it takes a lot of time. It's a good thing you've done your homework already for your GRE. So it's a good start, I guess. So guys, now are we all clear about the timeline that you need to follow for your GRE? Are we clear? Is there any questions that you have with respect to, in terms of the timeline planning for your masters? When should I take? Why should I take? Okay. Now, lot of questions here. I'll just start that. Shubham Pandey says, when did you start your preparation for GRE? Because I have started it now and targeting for spring 2019 for GRE. So that's the question I have from Shubham Pandey.
Yeah, so hi Shubham. To answer your question, I think it is perfectly fine that you have started your preparation from now, because me as a working professional, I didn't have much time at all to concentrate towards GRE preparation. So it was like I was working for 10-12 hours a day, and by the end of the day I was too tired to even concentrate on studies. So practically speaking, I spent like around 2 or around 1.5 months for staunchly preparing for GRE prep. And I think if you just spend quality hour into your studying, and it doesn't matter the amount of time that you put into, and I feel even if you start from now, it is pretty much, you have a pretty much decent time in your hand to go for it.
All right. So I hope that answers your question, Shubham. Now, moving forward, Abhinaya has a question for you. I'll just paraphrase the question. Why does it take so long for a SOP LOR? What is the process? A lot of people say it takes a lot of time, but why do you believe it takes that time? Can you give us the details on what it takes to write the SOP?
So the procedure about SOP and LOR is like it actually means a lot for your admission process, because just having a good profile or good CGPA or good WorkX and a decent score doesn't mean that you are gonna get a good university. So SOPs and LORs play a pretty big role in the admission procedure. And writing the SOP, I feel it should be really personalized, and you should come up with the original reason of why you want to study, why you want to apply for a particular field in a particular university. And it should be based on your personal feelings and loads of research, not some sort of like, hand-on thing that you come across the internet or something. So that's one reason. And I also feel if you're like applying to 5 universities, you shouldn't like send out the same format in all of them, because it might be that different universities focus on different research options, and they have different agenda in mind while they are taking in students. So it sort of should be aimed towards a specific university and a specific course, and doing it sort of takes a lot of time, because you do have to put in a lot of thought into writing it, into crafting your ideas, into there is also a limited level of words that you can put into. So it takes a lot of time to do that. So I think you should always have a pretty decent time in your hand to go for it. And as far as the LOR part, that also plays a very important role in the application procedure. So in getting your admits, so you also have to craft your LORs accordingly. If you have a decent work experience, then you have to focus on that more. And if you are a team player, you have to focus on that quality in your LOR. Or if you are more of a research oriented person, so it also depends on who you are and what university and what course you are targeting. So it should be really personalized according to your profile and the university and the course you are targeting. And getting it done takes quite some amount of time. It is daunting, but it is nothing impossible. So if you have some decent amount of time in your hand, I think that is better, instead of just rushing through this 2 things at the end.
All right. Wow. Thank you so much for that, Ananya. I hope that answers your question, Abhinaya. Now, guys, I can see more and more questions coming in from Saniya, Shubham, Ashutosh, Rajat, Caleb. I just want to agree something here. We'll try to address as many questions as possible, but let's cover what we have already discussed in the agenda. In the end, we'll have a Q&A session. We'll try to address as many questions as possible. Would you guys promise to hold your questions till then? Can we have a specific Q&A round in the event? I'll try to address as many questions as possible. So Shividya says yes, Shubham says yes, Shah says Shasim. Wonderful. Thank you so much, guys. Now, Ananya, moving forward, of course, next is one of the biggest actual point of why we're all here, your GRE preparations. Now, when it comes to GRE preparations, I think a lot of people have different perspective about it in terms of what to start, where to start, offline, online, all that, etc. But as a working professional, how did you decide about going about GRE preparation, and what were the steps you took for the same?
Yeah, so as I have said, I have a pretty hectic work schedule, and there are days when I have to spend around 10 to 12 hours in the office, and I don't get much time at the end of the day to study for GRE. So since the beginning of my preparation phase, I knew that I wouldn't be able to put 5 or 6 hours a day for the process. So I believe that it doesn't matter the amount of time that you are putting into, but it depends on what quality time you are putting into the preparation. So I just made sure that whatever be my schedule, however hectic it is, I would just try to put from 30 to 60 minutes a day for the prep, and during the weekdays when I have office. And there was no actually there was no strict schedule as of that, because I studied whenever I could. There were days when I could just get up early and I studied in the morning, and there were days when I could get late from office and study at the night. But I always tried to put from 30 to 60 minutes a day, and whatever time I couldn't manage in the weekdays, I tried to make it up during my weekends. During the weekends, I studied for at least 4-5 hours a day sometimes. So it was not a very strict schedule as of that, but I studied whenever I felt comfortable, and I just ensured whenever I was studying, it was all that I was doing.
All right. So I think that kind of sets off the pace very clearly when you have that kind of mindset to ensure that when you put that time for 2 hours, you have to completely focus on it. It kind of makes sense. That way, time planning is clear right now for most of us, Ananya. But moving forward, there are a lot of challenges that students face. For example, a lot of students find difficulty. Guys, let me ask the audience today, guys, what are the primary challenges that you face when you prepare for GRE? Like, can you give me examples in terms of specific questions or specific concepts? So verbal RC is one that is very common, that is common right now. Lack of time, says Ashutosh. I'm pretty sure as a working professional, it would be very difficult to do that. I understand. Vocabulary is one. Time management is one. Verbal SC and TC is one. Lack of vocabulary, time constraint. I think all these are very common problems that students face. Did you face the same problem? If I asked you what are the primary challenges, what's the very first thing that you will quote today, Ananya?
Yeah. So the first thing about starting your GRE prep is to understand where you actually stand. So it's like a sort of reality check. You just have to understand where are you at the in terms of the GRE process, and for that I feel taking a diagnostic test, which is also provided by GREedge, is pretty good, because it just gives you a sort of idea of where you stand currently and how much effort you need to put in to aim to actually receive the score that you were aiming for. So that was the first thing that I had in mind when I started my preparation, like 2 months prior to giving the exam. And I just took a diagnostic test, and I just sort of had this reality check that where I was standing as far as my preparation was concerned. And once I got that score, I sort of self-assessed and analyzed that how much effort I do need to put and what were my weaker areas where I needed to focus more. And that sort of actually sets a plan in your mind. So I think that is the first and the foremost thing that one should do while starting to prep for GRE. And the second thing for me was also the time crunch that I had, because working for 10 to 12 hours a day, I hardly could manage some dedicated time for GRE prep. But then again, that's I did manage to study for 30-60 minutes a day, and I think it works out. For GRE, you don't have to put 7 to 8 hours a day. You don't need to. If you put 60 minutes a day, but you put quality time, I think it's sufficient. The second problem that I had was I felt that I was pretty confident with my quant section, and I think also most people would agree, because most of the people are aiming for GRE are mainly from engineering background, and people hailing from engineering background do have a strong mathematics base. And the problems of GRE that appear in the GRE quant section, they are nothing that difficult that an engineer can't crack. It is mainly about your speed and practice. So from the very beginning, I was pretty confident about my quant section, but not so with my verbal. So yes, prepping for verbal was another big challenge that I would like to talk about. Building the vocab part, which is the main pillar of your verbal preparation. That was a pretty big challenge, because there are loads and loads of words, and most of the words, even if we have come across many of them, but there are many more that we haven't. And most of the words I didn't even know what they meant. So yes, memorizing all those words and learning about their usage and retaining them in memory, that was a pretty big challenge that I faced. And the third would, I think, just acing the long RC passages. So
all right. I think that kind of is a definitely important area. RC is kind of something a lot of people have that point. Now, a couple of questions have come in consistently here. The first question, Ashutosh, from where can we get a reality check like the one you got? That's number one. Number two is Shubham, Sudhakar have all asked the same question. What was your score in the diagnostic test?
Yeah. So I think there is a diagnostic test in the GREH portal itself, because I took that from the GREH portal, my diagnostic test. So I actually don't recall the exact score of my diagnostic test, but I think it was somewhere around 312 to 315. So I got disturbed during my quant section and I couldn't complete it for some reason. But I had a pretty decent quant score, but I didn't have a very encouraging verbal score. So I sort of understood that I had to put in loads and loads of effort to improve my verbal score. But at the same time, I understood that if I could just go on about my preparation and just focus on verbal, I could do it. It was not impossible. So yes, I had a score from 312 to 315, and I had set in mind that I wanted to score somewhere around 325 or above. So I think, and I had roughly around 2 months of preparation, and accordingly I set my schedule, and my SFS also helped me with that. So I feel if you are starting now, the best thing would to just log into the GREH portal and take their diagnostic test, and that sort of helps you understand where you stand currently and how much effort you need to put in times of practice and prep and everything.
All right. So for the people who would like to take a diagnostic test, you could just go access the GREH learning tracker and you will be able to find a test that will give you all the feedback that you will need, just like the one our guest has spoke about. Now, moving on to the next challenge, Ananya, you mentioned that vocabulary part. Now, this is a very, very common challenge among students, and it's not an easy task to completely master 3,300 words. So how did you go about this, and what are your tips here?
Yeah. So first of all, I just started learning words from the balanced 1000 list, but I faced quite a lot of problems with that because even if I learned words, I kept on forgetting them. So next I started accessing the word section provided by GRES. So I used to and the words are sorted there according to their priority, and there are like must know list and high importance list. So I just started going through the must know list. Those are like high frequency words and words that you come across very often in the GRE exam, actual GRE exam. So I just started going through the words, and I started there are also pictures associated with each word, which sort of really helped me in memorizing, in just retaining them in my memory. And I just started going through the words and their usage and the pictures, and it was not a thorough memorizing session as of that, but I just kept on going through the words day after day, and I tried to slowly retain them in memory. And I just went through words whenever I could. I think that is a very important practice that you should build while going about your GREH, especially the vocab prep, because learning words is easy, but retaining them in memory, that's the challenge. And when you have a sort of a limited time and there are 2000 words that you have to memorize, it's really a pretty big challenge, but it's nothing impossible. So what you need to do is just go through the words whenever you can. It's like I did, if I had 10 or 15 minutes break in between my office work, I would simply log into the portal and I would just go through 12 to 15 words. And I would just look at their usage and their antonyms and their synonyms. And maybe when I had time, I would just try to memorize those words, and I would try to write them down, maybe even use them in sentences. And that's how I think your vocabulary slowly builds up. And I think the word section helped me a lot. I also had some sort of flashcard apps installed in my mobile, and I also went through them very often. And I started off with learning the words from the must know list of the word section. And I learned for around 20-25 words a day in the beginning. And even there were days when I learned for around 100 or 80 words. And I just kept on revising them and rereading them over and over again till the point of time I felt confident that I had retained them perfectly in my memory.
All right. Now, in fact, a couple of very important milestones to notice, 100 words per day, even the audience are kind of really surprised. It's a pretty big commitment to take, especially after a long day at work. When you come back and we put that effort, it takes a lot of time and preparation. Now, a question, in fact, from Rajat Jain. It's kind of, I believe, it's relatable to a lot of people. Now, I'm actually facing difficulty to implement them in sentence equivalence and text completion. Now, do you have any specific tips on how to approach those questions?
Yeah, so there was this trick that I applied. I was when I say that I was reading 100 words a day, it doesn't necessarily mean I was memorizing them. I just went through the words, and I didn't worry about retaining them in memory. I just went through them. I tried to construct a sentence in my head where I could use that word. And even when I was writing mails or any other sort of communication, I tried to put those words into use. Or not even mails, even when I was speaking to my colleagues or to my friends, I just tried to use those words as much as possible. And that was the first thing that I did. And the second one would be, don't worry about memorizing the words, just keep on reading them over and over again, and till the time comes when you just sort of retain them in memory. And I had this sort of practice that whenever I learned a new word, I tried to associate it with some older word that I had learned that basically had the same meaning. So this is a sort of like synonym antonym exercise that you can do on your own. Whenever you are learning a new word, you can just try to remember. You can try to remember some old word that you had learned that basically meant the same thing, and you can just try to write them down. At the same time, you can think of some antonyms that you had learned, and you can also put them beside it. It's just a sort of fun exercise. While it also helps you in retaining the words in your memory, and at the same time you just build your vocab and you know where to use words, and slowly you come across like sets of words that basically mean the same and sets of words that basically don't or mean exactly the opposite. And then I think you can use them in your text completion and sentence equivalence.
All right. So I hope that answers your question, Rajat. Now, moving forward to the next part of the webinar, I think it's very important that we address the next concern. So guys, are you all with me so far? Can we move forward to next part of this webinar? We're going to address more about RC. We're going to talk about quant preparations, because believe me, she's got a 168 in quant. And if you have already done your research with respect to university shortlisting, 165, 166 cutoff for a lot of good universities. So we're going to approach that. So can we move forward? And I also see a lot of people joining us and not clear about how to use the platform. For you guys, basically there's a chat box available in the right of your screen in the dashboard if you're in your desktop. If you're in your mobile phone, there's a question mark button on the top tab. If you click on that, you can also access the chat box. So Alina, Andrew, Anirudh, Alex, Saxena, Ditya Patil, Labin Yusuf, a lot of attendees. In fact, we also have a very important giveaway here for students, because a lot of people have told RC is a difficult area. So stay tuned. Moving forward. So the third challenge I want to discuss with you, Ananya, is definitely about your RC troubles. Now, this is something I think in almost every day here, webinars at GR is being quoted that RC is a problem. What do I do? What do I do? From a bird eye point of view, what do you think our students should do when they approach an RC passage, and how should they practice for the same?
Yeah, so Vishnu, regarding this RC troubles, I really wanted to talk about this part, because this thing, I really had lots and loads of problem in my RC passages, because when I assessed my performances in the beginning, I saw that I was constantly doing better and better in my text completion and sentence equivalence part, but RC, I just couldn't just keep up with the pace. So the first thing about RC, I'd like to share with you guys where I was going wrong. So in the beginning of my preparation, while attempting an RC passage, what I was doing, I was just reading the passage, and I was not in habit of reading like the topics that they come. All of them are not at par with our interest levels. So I was not in habit of reading such long passages about industrial revolution or some historical topics. So what I was doing, I was just putting too much energy and focus in reading the passage and trying to understand each of the sentence and associate it with the previous sentence, and it took loads and loads of time. And by the time I had finished reading the long passage, I looked at the question. I simply forgot what I had read in the passage, and then I would again have to go back to the passage and look for the answer. So this practice wasted loads and loads of my time, and while I was wasting most valuable time, and I was sort of like freaking out at the end because the clock was ticking and I didn't have much time, so I would end up with not attempting many questions or just rushing through the end part of the questionnaire set, and this always created problems in my prep. So I contacted my SFA on this, and there was this interesting tip that she gave me. and I actually applied it in my preparation, in my letter exercises, and I was greatly benefited by it. It was that while attempting a RC passage, don't get daunted by the size of the passage or the complexity of the passage. The first thing to do is just give a casual look at the question that you have, but don't read the answers yet, because looking at the answer sort of like creates a bias in your head about the answer choice that you are going to finally take. So try not to look at the options that are given, but just give a look at the question and try to see what the question is asking for, because many a times it may be that the question is asking for some specific information from the passage, or it may be simply asking for the tone of the passage, or it might be simply asking for a point that the author is trying to refute. So my point is, when you are if you are trying to understand the tone of the passage, the mode in which you read the passage is completely different if you are trying to look for a specific point from the passage. So just give a look at the question first. Don't look at the answer. Just give a look at the question, and then skim through the passage looking for the specific answer. So if the question is like, what is the tone of the passage, just don't bother about reading line to line. Just give an overall look of the passage, and you would get a pretty decent idea that what is the tone of the author. On the other hand, if you read the question and you see that the question is regarding some specific information that the question is asking, then just skim through the passage looking for that specific information. So I think this exercise is really, really helpful in acing RC passages, because for me, I found that towards the beginning of my prep, I was like even wasting from 4 to 5 minutes in answering a single RC question. But towards the end, I could do it in simply 30 to 40 seconds. So that's a pretty good jump in terms of your RC preparation. And I think this trick helps a lot. And the second thing that I would like to say is that inculcate a reading habit, because there is no better alternative there to ace our long RC passages than having a reading habit of your own. And for me, I always like reading storybooks. So I just read as many storybooks as I could, and also I read newspapers and stuff. But if you don't like to read books, that's no problem. There are some pretty good online reading materials available where there are topics from various sections. Because RC is not, because I feel that everyone has a reading habit of their own. While some people like to read about sports, some people like to read about mystery novels, and there are some people who just like to read about social topics. But the problem with RC passages, it comes from a myriad of topics, and some topics just simply don't match with your interest area. So we can all crack RC passages when the passage is about something that matches with our interest level. But when it is talking about something that we are simply not interested in, we lose our focus. So the challenge is to develop a reading habit even when you find the topic extremely boring. And I think the best way to go about that is to read as many online reading materials as you can. And there are like pretty good materials available online for reading. I contacted my SFA and she gave me some good 3 to 4 links. I don't actually remember them now, but I think you all can contact your respective SFAs. And there are like subject-wise, topic-wise different paragraphs given there, and then you can just give them a read, even if it doesn't interest you, because this exercise helps you in maintaining your focus through long and daunting RC passages.
All right. Wow, that's actually a very, very well compiled set of tips that, in fact, the fact that you've jumped from 5 minutes per question to 30-40 seconds is like a phenomenal jump that you can take. That with the very simple strategies such like that. I think that kind of adds a lot of value, Ananya. Thank you so much for that. So guys, now, do you feel RC we'll be able to face it? How many of you have that basic confidence that maybe if I change this, I'll also be able to master my RC? So Shubham says very helpful, amazing, says Sudhakar. Yes, me, a lot of me coming in. I think that's a very relief of most of our minds. Yeah. So moving forward, my next question for you, Ananya. In fact, before I take up those questions, I in fact made it a point that we compile a set of questions and tips you have shared here as a ebook for a lot of our students. Yeah. So if anyone of you are interested in getting a hands on that ebook, that which RC questions where you can get to solve them and gather a lot of tips, if you're interested, just type in RC in the chat box. I'll just share that ebook with you guys. You could just go ahead after the webinar and start downloading that ebook for your own benefit. There'll be a lot of preparation questions involved in it. So I am not able to send privately. I just in a common chat box. I think most of you would have got it in the chat box in your screen. If you're not able to access it, it's on the right of your dashboard. Or if in your mobile phone, there's a question mark button on the top tab. Click on that. You will be able to see the message. Guys, have you got the link? Can we move forward to the next part? Shreya says, thank you, sir. I'm glad to help you, Shreya. What about others? Bala, Shreya, Vaibhav, Samriddhi, have you all got it? Wonderful. Moving forward, 168 in Quan, Ananya, it's no simple feat. Yeah, a lot of people say 170 should be a target, but getting to that score of 168 kind of has a huge impact and pushes you towards, makes you more confident about your GRE, your entire admissions journey. With respect to Quant, what would be your first tip for anybody here?
So regarding quant, I would just say that my first tip would be like always revisit the work you have done. Because many a times, and I have faced this challenge over and over again, I would just look at a question and it would seem too easy for me. And most of the time I wouldn't even pen and paper and I would just sort of try to calculate it mentally and I would just tick a box and I would move on. And it might be that I was finishing my section within like 20 minutes and I wouldn't even, I would just move to the next section. Or even if I was rechecking, I wouldn't give attention to the question that I had solved mentally because it just seemed so easy. But I would always advise that it is the best thing to do is to just recheck your work and revisit your work, no matter how simple it seems, no matter how easily you came up with the answer. If you have got time, try to recheck it over and over again because many a times the biggest mistakes are easily the silliest ones. So that would be my first tip, to like revisit and recheck your work if you have got time. And the second thing is that I would say that do not try to involve calculator over and over again. If you think that the calculation is simple enough and you can just do it simply on pen and paper and you have the confidence to do it, which you should, because most of the calculations are pretty simple. They are not, they do not involve big numbers as of that. So you should just try to do it on pen and paper, or if you are confident, you can do it in your mind, because I think that clicking and opening the online calculator and typing the number for doing a simple math calculation like 35 plus 17, it just simply wastes most of your valuable time. And it is, I feel that for simple calculations, the best way to go about it is just doing it on pen and paper. And regarding this, I sort of would like to have this interesting tip for you. Like there is this trick for calculating the square of numbers that end with 5. So let's pick up this example. If you can all see on the screen, I hope everybody can see the screen.
Guys, are you able to see the second tip that is being mentioned in the slide? Are you all able to see that? So I think that's quite clear. Ananya, you can just go explain that for us.
So yeah, so it's like as I have shown, 15 into 15. So instead of calculating it, the square of numbers ending with 5, you can simply put 25 in the units and the tens place. And for the first 2 digits, what you have to do, if you're calculating square of 15, you have to pick 1 from 15 and you have to multiply it with the number next to it, that is 2. So 1 into 2 is 2, and append it with 25, that gives you 225. Similarly, square of 25 will be 2 into 3, append it with 25, that gives you 625. So these are something you already know, but what if you have to calculate square of 75? So now simply by looking at it, you can say 7 into 8 is 56, append it with 25, it gives you 5625.
All right.
So
I think picking up shortcuts like this would be very crucial and critical, especially when you're looking for time management skills. And I think most of them here would be very clear about that. In fact, Nabila says, wow, mind blowing. Okay. So getting that shortcuts where you're able to arrive at quick solutions and use of online calculator the most is very important. So guys, I want all of you to take away that very clearly. Even when you prepare, even when you start practicing, try to use the online calculator always, because if you're used to that, using it in your by mouse clicks, that change when you go for your actual GRE would be more smoother, and you might not waste a lot of time. That's something very valuable. Thank you so much for that, Ananya. Guys, I hope you're all clear with what we discussed so far. And the next challenge that you mentioned was something about smart tricks. What's the story there?
Yeah, so it's like while even preparing myself, I feel that most of the questions that come in GRE, they are not that difficult to solve, but the biggest challenge that we face is the time crunch thing, because you have to like solve a definite set of questions within a limited time, and I'm sure given unlimited time, every one of us can score 170 out of 170. But the challenge is solving correctly in a limited time. So the right way to go about it is to solve your problem smartly, not like the bookish way that you go about it. So there are like multiple sets of solutions that can exist for a particular problem. But all you have to do is you have to figure out what is the smartest and the shortest possible route to your answer. Like as I have seen in many questions, you can just simply tell the answer by looking at the options itself. Because just by looking at the option, you can see that 2 or 3 options are simply ruled out. And you just leave, you're just left with one option or maybe 2 options. And you can simply put those in the problem itself and back calculate and come with the answer. Sometimes I have also seen that 3 options are simply ruled out if you look at the options first instead of solving the question, and you can actually come up with the answer even without solving for it. So that is a smart trick that I would like to say. But Vishnu, can we just try to solve a question together so that I can help make them understand this point better?
Definitely, that'll be quite an interesting experience. Guys, how many of you are up for solving a question with us now? In fact, we can just show the question, we can take 2 minutes and see who's able to get the solution right. And then we'll be able to understand the technique that she's able to share. How many of you are excited? Wow, lot of yes coming in. Let's stop. I want to do that. Okay, so here you go. The question is on your screen right now. Ananya, you can just give us a walkthrough on the question exact. Just tell us this question. Let's see how many of them are able to solve in the next 2 minutes, and then we can resume it.
Okay, so on the screen, there are like 3 sets of equation where x plus y plus z equal to 6, xy plus z equal to 5, and xz plus y equal to 7. And there are like 4 options given, and you have to come up with the answer that equals the value of xyz. So if you guys can just give a hand at solving this thing, because I think it's a pretty decent problem and it's fairly easy.
All right, so far a lot of answers have come in. Some of them have said 9, some of them have said 6. Okay, but the 9 and 6 is the most popular answer so far. I think most of them have agreed on the same solution.
Okay, so if we simply move on from this thing, you can just show the set of solutions. So this is the first solution that I can show you. This is the conventional method of solving this, where you simply add equation 2 and 3 and you come up with xy plus z plus xz plus y equal to 5 plus 7 equal to 12, and then you take x plus y common, you are left with y plus z, and from equation 1 you substitute the value of y plus z, you are left with 6 minus x, and from there it's basically simply solving a set of equations until you are left with 3 possible sets of values, that is 1, 2 and 3, right? And when you multiply them, you get the answer as 6. So yes, 6 is the correct answer. But the problem with this approach of solving the problem is you lose like at least 5 to 6 minutes of your important type while solving if you follow this approach. So on the other hand, we can look at an alternative approach to this problem. So if I can just show you the solution 2, which is in the next slide. This is like we all know that arithmetic mean of 3 numbers is greater than their geometric mean, right? Greater than equal to. So x plus y plus z by 3 is always greater than equal to xyz, the third root of xyz. So 6 by 3 is basically greater than equal to the third square root of xyz. So it basically leaves us with an inequality where you arrive that xyz will always be less than equal to 8, right? So if you look at the options carefully, only xyz equal to 6 satisfies that inequality criteria, and you can simply take that answer as correct. So while the first approach was taking like 5 to 6 minutes of your time, this exercise would hardly take like 1 to 2 minutes, and you were left with like additional 3 and 4 minutes which you can spend on other questions.
All right, so Even though if you get the answer right, understanding which approach takes lesser time every time you solve a question, understanding feedback on how you can make the question better and faster should be something that you always look into. That I think is what is understood. Now guys, are you all clear about what has been discussed so far? We have just discussed about alternative strategies and 5 important things that we have discussed today so far: RC, vocabulary, reality check, smart work, and of course tips for a proper quant exercise, right? So now is the time for most of you to have that question answer session. I'm going to love taking more questions, but before that, a very important question for me personally: you've got a 5 in your analytical writing essay. Now that's not a very easy task, and I'm pretty sure who are seriously preparing for GRE, most of you would agree with me that 5 AWA is not a very easy thing to do. So can you take us through some important tips that should be in account of when we look at AWA?
Yeah. So the first thing that I would like to say is, most of us, what we do, while we focus so much on our quant and verbal phase that we simply ignore AWA. And I have come across many of my friends who were preparing for GRE and they simply didn't write an actual AWA section till the day they actually took the exam. So while you don't need to put in that much effort for preparing AWA, but what I would suggest is never skip the AWA when you are taking full-length mock tests. Always have the practice of writing up AWA sections first, even if you feel that you are pretty confident with the topic and you can have like a pretty decent essay, you can write up a pretty decent essay on it, but never skip it. Just go through with it, because it not only helps you think on the spot, it also helps you how you are going to actually perform on the day of the test. Because I have come across people who actually score pretty decent in the mock-up test and the mock full-length test, because they simply don't they skip this AWA section and they simply jump to the quant and verbal. So they are actually able to maintain their cool and their patience, and they come up with quite good score. But on the day of the actual exam, when they have to face the long and lengthy AWA section first, quite a daunting 1 hour. And after that, they simply lose their patience to focus on the original verbal and quant section. So writing up AWA in your mocks is a very important thing, because it helps you build up that composure in your head, and you sort of get used to the ambience that you are going to face on the day of the actual exam. So, and it also gives you a practice of thinking on the spot, coming up with better points, coming up with logical points. So that would be my first tip of AWA preparation, that you don't need to as such prepare for it separately, but once you are done with your quant and verbal preparation and you feel confident to take a full length test, don't skip the AWA part. Just go through with it. Just write it up, however or whatever topic it is on, just simply write it up. So that is my first step. And the second is try to think just before actually attempting for writing the essay or the argument. Just think, give the topic a thorough read, build up a sound logical argument in your head, and always make sure that the logical arguments you are making, it should strongly support the statement that you are trying to prove. So in a case of an argument, you are either speaking in favor of the notion or against the notion. So whatever you are, just try to think of at least 3 to 4 separate logical points that staunchly supports the claim that you are making. And just try to throw in a couple or more real world examples if you can, because that thing helps a lot. So you should also maintain this definite structure, like spend the first paragraph on a brief introduction of the passage, elucidating the point that the topic is about, and then maybe a sentence or 2 about whether you are supporting it or you are against it. And then for the next 2 or 3 separate paragraphs, you just go on about different logical points that you want to make in support of your argument. So, and in middle of that, just try to back it up with real life examples or practical examples. And towards the end, just give a conclusion paragraph, and where you mention that these are the points on a nutshell that I have mentioned, and these I feel why these are the reasons why I feel that I can support or cannot support this statement. And also try to see if the author is trying to make a point, whether he's trying to make that point in the light of some definite survey or strategy, or he's just making a general statement. because what these passages are looking for, you always have to say that the author is trying to make this point, but he is not able to support his claim by proving specific examples or specific survey. So that is a very important thing. So just build up a logical structure in your head and maintain your composer while writing the actual AWA response, and maintain this paragraph by paragraph structure, where you, instead of writing a single paragraph where there is no definite structure, always try to give a introduction paragraph followed by 2 to 3 logical arguments paragraph, and at the end you can just top it with a concludatory paragraph.
All right. Wow. Thank you so much for that, Ananya. I think nobody could have summarized that better in terms of how to approach analytical writing essay. And now that we are here, guys, I think we have to have a long Q&A session here in terms of how to address each and every question. But before that, guys, so far, how many of you have got a certain amount of clarity with respect to how you can approach your GRE, or at least how to change the pace of which we are preparing your right now? How many of you have some clarity right now? So Vaibhav says nice, a lot says Ishta, yo, me, a lot of me coming in. Wonderful, guys. So that's very, very good to see. So before we jump on to understand the Q&A session, we take it as a mission. In fact, having a score of 328 like this with so much clarity is something that we really are proud about and very happy at this point of time. And to make more and more 320 scorers, to make more and more tips to be shared, we'd like to be very clear that wish you all of you all the best in your GRE preparation. And I want to understand how many of you here are very serious that yes, I want to take these tips and I want to have an SFA who will give me tips just like this to improve my pace of GRE preparation. How many of you very clear up like that? So Maureen Gulati says me, wow, a lot of me coming in fact. But first of all, Ananya, thank you so much for your valuable time. I think every minute in the webinar you give us a lot of valuable tips and a lot of important solutions, which definitely I hope will help our students and keep up the pace of the preparations. And also, thank you so much for giving your time on a Saturday for us to share your tips. I really thank you for that. And I'm here from us, GREedge, and our students. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thank you to you all. And also, I would be really glad if my tips were of any help. And also, I would like to wish best of luck to all of you guys for your upcoming exam. And hope you can achieve your dream score and you can get into your target universities as well.
Thank you so much. That's very, very sweet of you. Thank you so much. And guys in the audience, thank you so much for being a fantastic audience. I think you've been very, very patient, very, very clear with and everything you tip was said and done. You guys have really taken it and answered. For more, don't worry if your question not answered, if you're missed so far, don't worry any about that. The contact information is right on our screen right now. Feel free to just look at the contact information and contact any of our student accounts. We'll be very happy to help you out. Samriddhi, Vijay, Siddhi, Ishita, a lot of thank you message. Thank you so much, guys. And if you have any specific questions for me in that, just email me at info@greedge.com. If you'd like to get any assistance for your GRE or admission counseling, just talk it as 988-445-3276. Vijay, thank you so much. Vijay says you're doing a good job. Thank you, Vijay. Like I said, all about helping our students get the best tips and best experience. So until we see you in our upcoming webinars, this is Vishnu and Ananya signing off. A very good evening and take care, guys.